Welcome to the Built to Last podcast, a community for coaches founded on the principles encourage, equip, and empower. We are performance coaches working for eternal purpose. Now, here are your co-hosts, Charlie Ray and Justin Bentavania.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Built to Last podcast. We are here. Episode 10 has finally arrived. Double digits. We made it. Appreciate everyone's feedback and support and help throughout the process of getting this thing off the ground. It's been a lot of fun. I don't know about you, Charlie, but just getting to know everybody has been really cool for sure.
It's been exciting, man, getting to meet new people and get to grow this thing, man.
Yeah, and speaking of that, so our episode today is called 10 Years on the Turnpike. It's our 10th episode, 10 years from Coach Jimmy Prendergast, head strength and conditioning coach at Hofstra University. And like we said in the beginning, about a community. So one of the cool things about our profession, as we all know, is the opportunity we have to come together at clinics and network and meet other coaches, people of a like mind. And we had a clinic here at Hofstra back in December. And Coach Jimmy, crazy fun fact is that on his 10-year anniversary to the day working at Hofstra, he gave a talk called 10 Years on the Turnpike. And so I know it's not common, but we actually made that talk into a podcast, and you guys will see that as we get started. But Coach Jimmy has been my biggest mentor. I've been in a lot of different schools throughout my career, but with all the incredible people who have poured into my life, and I'm blessed to have a ton of those people at every stop along the way. But Coach Jimmy's really been that older brother that I've never had, and he's taught me a lot about what it means to be a man, what it means to be a coach. Now that I'm a husband, I've learned a lot from him, and someday I hope to be a father, and I'm learning a lot from his experiences thus far with his two kids. With all that being said, Charlie, I want to turn it over to you. I know you actually have a clinic coming up at HBU, right?
Yep, we do. So guys, for those that are interested in the Houston area, we have a strength and conditioning clinic here at Houston Baptist University. It's going to be on May 30th, which is a Saturday, and it's going to start around 9 a.m. and go all the way to about 3 p.m. We're going to try to have some different topics and 2 or 3 possibly roundtable discussions. So if you guys are interested, I would love to connect, trying to build a community and also just talk about how to grow and to have impact on people. You can reach me through cray, that's my last name, cray @hbu.edu. But guys, I wanted to talk about the Bible verse for this episode and for this month. It comes from Psalm 119, verse 2, and it says, "How blessed are those who observe his testimonies, who seek him with all their heart." And wow, I mean, we are called to seek God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, with everything. And even within Built to Last, we're trying to build a community where we are trying to share testimonies of God's faithfulness, how he's working in our lives, how he's working in our athletes' lives, and how he's being faithful in meeting those needs and presenting opportunities. So I want to encourage you guys with that. Seek God with all your heart.
Amen, brother. Well put. Cool. So getting right into this episode, guys, we don't have much of a bio on Coach Jimmy today because he's going to give it throughout the episode, but he bleeds blue and gold. He's been here his whole career, started out here as an undergraduate student and intern and worked his way up to the head of the department to be head strength and conditioning coach here today. In this episode, you guys are going to hear a lot about his progression. And what I like is that he gives practical steps of what it means to be successful at each position, right? So what's a great intern? What's a great associate head? How do your roles change as you progress? Talks about that a lot, talks about the culture here at Hofstra and his department philosophy, goes into work-life balance. Fun fact, he actually proposed to his wife right here on the turf in our lacrosse stadium. And so, like I said, he legit it really bleeds blue and gold. And so biggest lessons learned he goes over. And then after doing it for 10 years and still being here, absolutely crushing it, talks about what keeps the fire burning for him. And so sit back, relax, guys, and enjoy a little piece of our clinic here back at Hofstra. All right, this week I'm joined with Coach Jimmy Prendergast at Hofstra University. We're here at the Hofstra Strength and Conditioning Clinic in 2019. Appreciate you coming on, Coach, and appreciate you doing this and sharing your story a little bit.
Justin, I appreciate you having me as a guest, and looking forward to a great opportunity, and I appreciate everybody being here today.
So, Coach, your background is definitely one that is unique in the sense that in this profession, a lot of times, I'm sure people can sympathize or empathize. We move around the country a lot. There's a lot of different opportunities out there, and at times that might take us to different states, even different countries. And for you, your role has been definitely unique at Hofstra, where you've been here the whole time, from undergrad, grad school, starting here as an intern, working your way to the head of the department. I'm sure a lot of people can learn a lot from that journey. Do you mind just in any way you want to take this thing, just explain the journey a little bit?
Absolutely. Want to hit the next one so you can see the progression here. So the guy on the right, so that was in 2009. 23 years old. So I'll give you a little. So today, actually, I called HR. I knew I was coming up on my 10-year anniversary here at Hofstra, and actually today is my 10-year anniversary being at Hofstra. So pretty incredible, and I appreciate everybody being here today.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you, appreciate it. So December 3rd, 2009, the football program at Hofstra was dropped. I was at the time an intern, and then it turned over into a volunteer position. So I was working with the head strength and conditioning coach, Coach Brandon Beach. When the football program was dropped, he's a football strength coach. He's obviously, there's no need for him to be here anymore at Hofstra. So now he worked football, men's and women's lacrosse. So now this is in December. If anybody knows men's and women's lacrosse, they go into preseason mid-January. So they needed a strength coach. I had been interning and then volunteering, just again sitting back, sitting in the pocket, never programming, none of that, just observing. So then December, I guess maybe 10th, I have an interview for the position. So I sit in Seth Tierney's office upstairs, men's lacrosse coach, and he's basically like, well, you're my guy, so are you ready for this? So that guy on the right was sitting in that chair and was like, I'm not sure, coach, but I'm going to give this one hell of a try. Because again, I had no programming experience. I just observed, but again, I tell everybody this, in life, you're never ready for anything. I tell interns that all the time. I tell assistants, you're never ready to be a full-time assistant. You're never ready to be an associate head. You're never ready to be a head strength and conditioning coach. And then on the life side, you're never ready to get engaged. You're never ready to get married. Never ready to buy a home. And you're definitely never ready to have kids. There is no book on that. I can promise you that. So any fathers out there, I know Coach DeMarco, any other fathers out there, mothers. So yeah, you're never ready. So that's the big thing I took there. So again, I took Coach Tierney took a risk on me, and at 23 years old, clean shaven and raw in this strength world, I took a shot, jumped in. So I held that role. So I was hired as an interim assistant strength coach. So basically, I had a 6-month job interview. So they hired me just to get us through this, get the teams through the season, and then they reestablish how I did in May. Well, May rolls along. I guess I did a good enough job that I didn't piss anybody off. They hired me full-time as an assistant strength coach in May of 2010. I held that role till 2014, where I got promoted to associate head strength coach. And then, like Justin touched on earlier, then a head strength and conditioning coach in 2017. And here I am to this day. So that's kind of the Reader's Digest version of that. But again, this is going to be less about X and O's of programming and just more about life experience and kind of just dealing with people. And again, because the reason why we're all sitting in this room is because we enjoy working with people and helping people and pushing this profession. So yeah, that's my journey there. So
I know that was Reader's Digest,
Yep.
But let's unpack it a little bit.
Yep.
So what I want to do now is I just want to break down each step in the journey, right? Because coaches move from an intern all the way up to the head of the department. And I think everybody in this room is at a different stop along the way, whether you own your own facility, whether you're interning right now, or whether you're working on a degree and things like that. And we have pretty much every kind of span on this place in the spectrum there in the audience. And so I want to talk about each spot for a minute. So let's start with you as an intern. So what do you think makes a successful intern? Because you've seen a lot of interns come through here. You've been an intern yourself, and you've obviously been successful in that role. What do you think makes a great intern?
Really, at the end of the day, passion. Because there's a lot of different ways to make money, and I can tell you in strength and conditioning, it's a lot of you guys know it's not the most lucrative career. So if you're not passionate, you should get out now, because passion trumps everything. You have to have passion, regardless if you're a volunteer, an intern, assistant. Have your passion, because that's what's going to get you out of bed in the morning. The alarm clocks go off early for all of us, so if you're not passionate about what you do, then you got to get out. So passion is number one. A lot of these carry over to each kind of role, but communication is another one. Your communication as an intern/volunteer, again, you're usually not in team responsibility role yet, so it's communicating with your supervisor, your head strength coach, your assistant strength coach, whoever you're working with, really trying to hone in on that. Another thing, open-minded. So you may intern with somebody, you may not believe in their training modalities or programming styles, but be open-minded because you can learn something from everybody. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, you're going to learn something from that person. So being open-minded to all of those training modalities. Continuous learner. There's always something to read, especially nowadays with technology and podcasts and things like that. I forget what podcast I heard it on, but use your commute as basically like a class. So instead of listening to music, if you have a 30-minute commute, you could bang out a podcast or an audio book, things like that. There's always a way to learn and kind of sharpen your sword there. And then always be ready, because I'll give you a perfect example. So this is before the football program was dropped. This is when I was an intern. As an intern, you can get pretty comfortable. You have your responsibilities. You clean, you break down, you stock fridges, whatever you have to do. But most of the time, you're not leading, okay? So I'll never forget, in the office that's now my office, Brandon Beach, the head strength and conditioning coach, this is before a probably 5:30 a.m. football workout. He normally takes the warm-up. Mind you, there's 35 to 40 guys in the weight room. So I'm sitting back comfortably, drinking my coffee, and he's like, I got to take this email, you got warm up. Well, if I wasn't, it took a split second, and I was like, all right, I'm ready to roll. But you always have to be ready, because you never know when your number is going to be called, so you have to be dialed in at all times, because it's very easy to get comfortable in your role, regardless if it's an intern, volunteer, assistant, head. So you always have to be ready for the next opportunity, and yeah, that'll definitely help you guys in your career.
And so the next opportunity for you was an assistant.
Yes.
Right? So what do you think are some of the biggest differences between the roles, the transition, and what do you think just makes a great assistant?
Obviously, you have to, now going from that volunteer spot to the assistant, now I have to figure out programming. I had an idea, but now you get the keys to the car, you got to figure out where the car is going to go. So programming experience, you got to keep learning about that. Communication, now it just transfers from your direct supervisor, now it expands a little bit. You have your sport coach you have to directly communicate with. You have your athletic trainers you have to directly communicate with. Other supervisors in the department, things like that. So communication, that's one thing, thinking about this today, is one thing that you can never perfect. You could be a great communicator for 5 years of your career, and then you go a couple weeks without responding to emails, without responding to texts, and all of a sudden you become a bad communicator. So communication is a relentless pursuit of something that can never be perfected. Relentless pursuit of something that can never be perfected. You always have to be on it with communication, because as you develop these new roles, you're only going to have more people that you're going to have to communicate with. So that's why it is so important. So and then the last one on this bullet is just buy-in from student athletes and coaches. One thing that I learned early on is that the student athletes don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, and I try to live every day by that. So in order for the student athletes to run through a wall for you, you have to get their buy-in, okay? Showing them that you care. So that's, again, a lot of that kind of carries over to the next one, but I truly believe in those things. So.
Yeah, as somebody who works in the same weight room as you, and our desks are probably this close to each other throughout the day, and we're not on the floor, I see firsthand how much your athletes appreciate what you do for them, and they can tell for sure how much you care about them. Now, as the head of the department, right, you're leading myself and Coach Ash. There's obviously a massive, weight on your shoulders compared to when you were assistant, where you just worried about your teams, and that was pretty much it, programming, things like that. Mm-hmm. Now I see you interacting more with administration, doing things with donors and vendors and things like that. What are some of the things that you think makes you successful as a head strength coach in your new role? So one thing I learned from Jay Artinian, he's not a strength coach, he's not anybody you're going to see on a podcast anywhere. He's been at Hofstra for forever. He played lacrosse here. He worked in facilities, worked his way up in facilities. Now he's the deputy athletic director here at Hofstra. So I was we get lunch a lot. So driving back from getting burgers somewhere, I asked him, what made you successful? How did you work up the chain? Because going from facilities to now second in command, almost the athletic director here at Hofstra, one thing he said was, communicate with people when you don't need something. So it's very easy to shoot somebody a text when, hey, you need a favor, but how often do you reach out to somebody that you don't need something? Hey, how's your day going? How you doing with this? How's your family doing? So that's one thing. He's like, that's really my foundation is reaching out to people when I don't need something, because then when you do need something,
they will, again, you're not reaching out to them just knowing on the back end you're going to get something in return, but again, just being a good person and trying to reach out to people and stay communication. So the other thing as the head of the department and for a leadership role is delegating responsibilities. Year one as a head strength coach, I don't think I did a great job delegating. I tried to do everything myself. I'm sure everybody can look at themselves in the mirror at some point in their life. They probably tried to do too much. Then year two and now in year three, trying to delegate more responsibility to Coach Justin and Coach Ashley. They're both here for a reason. They are phenomenal coaches, phenomenal people, so let them lead. All right? Leadership is creating an environment where the people in your culture can be successful and use the attributes that they have to be successful. So,
transitioning a little bit. So, talked about your journey. This is your department now. So let's talk a little bit about our department here, our core values. I know you've coined the 4 C's. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so the 4 C's, again, when you're taking over the head role, I wanted to have something that just embodied our department. So I even have it on the lunch pail, and I'll talk about the lunch pail in a second. But the 4 C's, culture, communication, character, and consistency. That's really the foundation of what we do. Everybody throws around the word culture, and I figured that was going to come up in a podcast somewhere, and I figured it would come up today. So one thing with culture that I truly believe, it's not something that you are. It is something you are, but it's something that we do. So it's caring about the student athletes, obviously training ourselves, creating that culture, creating the weight room culture with our student athletes, but it's the little intangibles that we do every single day that builds our culture. We have, it's also the individuals. It's not just myself, it's Justin, it's Ashley, it's Coach Mark, it's Coach Anthony, Coach Elena. Every intern that has come through Hofstra, the culture lives on through us because of them. So everything was built. So that's why I truly appreciate the interns, the volunteers, previous assistants, because just because my name is the head of the department, this department doesn't run just because of me. It's because of everybody. Every person that's part of the staff is living, breathing, eating culture. So that's what we preach all the time, to the point where it's a joke. Like we always, in referencing people, call each other culture. It's ridiculous, but it works. Character. You're trying to build good moral character, not only with yourselves, your department, but also with the student athletes. So that's something we're always trying to improve, whether it's in the weight room, whether it's one-on-one conversations with student athletes. We're trying to help people with that. Communication, again, like I alluded to, it's something you can never perfect. So trying to teach the student athletes good communication, whether it's if they can't make it to a lift because of a family event or whatever it is, and then they don't communicate that to you. Again, just trying to, because again, at the end of the day, most of the student athletes here at Hofstra are not going on to play professional sports, so they need these skills to take on in life, because again, they're going to be heads of CEOs hopefully, or whatever the business they're going in. So communication is huge. And then consistency. Without consistency, we could have a great culture, we could be great communication, great character, but we got to be consistent with what we do. Not only ourselves, but our student athletes. So that's why I coined the term the 4 C's. It's what I truly believe in, and what Justin and Ashley embody every single day, and everybody that comes through the department. So yeah, that's the 4 C's.
So with that culture kind of being the pinnacle, like the forefront of the 4 C's, let's stay with culture for a second. So you coined a phenomenal quote from a movie I think we all know, Gladiator.
Okay, so this is going to sound ridiculous.
So
raise your hand if you've seen the movie Gladiator. I would hope most. Okay. There's a scene in it, and I was sitting on the couch, my kids, and with my wife and kids, and they had no idea where my mind was going here. So there's a scene with Russell Crowe, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but the other older gentleman was giving Russell Crowe advice on how to win freedom. So he says, win the crowd, win the freedom. So everybody remembers the scene where they all start like chanting Spaniard, Spaniard, and he gets his freedom. Well, then thinking about, just because of the way my mind works, applying it to strength and conditioning, well, their term is win the crowd, win your freedom. Well, I termed it now, win the crowd, win the culture, and the crowd being the student athletes. So if you get buy-in from the student athletes, the coaches, administrators, you win the culture of the department, and that's how you, again, we're not trying to win anything besides trophies and things like that, but it's you want to be successful, and that's why that slides up there. So you win the crowd, you win the culture. So.
And that's also, I'm going to cycle back to our 4 C's here. So I read a great book. If you guys are ever looking for a good read in terms of branding your department, whether it's at a private facility or at a school, called Brands Win Championships. Really good book, recommended to me by Don L. Boucher, head strength and conditioning coach at the Citadel, and he absolutely kills it with that type of a thing. And so in that book, they talk a lot about having a story for your brand. Right, and so a story is just a quick blurb that kind of embodies who you are. People kind of know you by your story. And when I was reading the book, I said, well, I like to come up with something in my head if I'm speaking to a recruit, a donor, something like that, where I can just spit it out quick of who we are as a department. And so what I came up with is Hofstra Strength and Conditioning is a culture. All right, we're a culture first and foremost, continually on the rise by giving people the extra minute. Right, because we were talking one day in the department, in our office, saying, well, how do we determine if we're being successful? You can't really measure it by wins. It's hard to measure it by injuries because freak things happen. Right, it's hard to measure if people like you or not because sometimes you got to inspire an athlete and they don't like you very much in the moment. Right, so it's hard to say how are we successful. Right, well, the moment we stop giving our athletes the extra minute, right, that's I think where we're not being successful anymore. That's what got us to where we are. Right, and so Coach Jimmy one day comes in the office, I forget if we were talking like a janitor or something had happened, and he walks in, he's like, I think I just came up with something. All right, so if you don't mind, let's talk about the extra minute for a second.
So the extra minute is just something, just thinking back and dealing with just multiple people at Hofstra through the years, and just thinking of what other successful people did for me, and trying to just kind of coin it into more of a term. So extra minute is more so just giving a little bit extra of your time, similar to what I call the Artinian effect of reaching out to people when you don't need something. But the extra minute is instead of just blowing by somebody in the hallway at work, like actually having true meaningful conversations with, whether it's the janitor, whether it's a student athlete that's never going to see the field, whether it's an administrator that you don't directly work with, or a student athlete that you'll never work with. Those little extra minutes, they really truly mean things to people that you wouldn't even realize. I'm going to show you a slide in a couple minutes just about what I'm talking about. But those little extra minutes added up over time really kind of brings cohesiveness within your department. And again, it's just going a little bit above and beyond for people, because again, at the end of the day, if you're not in it to give back and to truly care about somebody, then you should get out of this profession, because there's a lot of other things, like I said, you could do. So
cool. So department breakdown. So we're still talking about our department here. So how do you kind of break up the department when you move from the assistant role to the head role? And like you said, you have to start delegating more now. How do you kind of split up the roles amongst our staff?
So, like I said, I was transparent with you that I didn't do a good job year one. I just tried to do it too much. This year, I've now just not allowed, because they do a great job, but so Coach Ashley has handled all of our gear ordering and designing everything. So a fun fact about Coach Ash, back in high school, she wanted to go to college and design sneakers and gear and stuff like that. So I had that in the back of my head. And as a leader, you have to, again, tap into what people that you work with, what you think that they would enjoy doing. So I delegated that responsibility all to Coach Ash, and she absolutely crushes it. And it gives her good experience budgeting wise and just more experience that way. She's also handles the fueling station now, so all of our ordering of protein bars, protein shakes, and budgeting that way. And let's see what else. Also the website. We have a great website, and Coach Ash has now taken a bunch of information and put it up on our website for incoming student athletes, exercise demos, and things like that. But you guys should think about, even if you're not a head of a department, is think about how you can delegate responsibilities, because it's great opportunities for both Coach Ash and Coach Justin, because they all strive to be head strength coaches or associate head strength coaches. So it's good learning experience, and it also allows you a little bit more free time to do what you need in your regular duties. All right, Coach Justin, the reason why we're all sitting here today is he had this idea of running a strength and conditioning clinic here at Hofstra, and I let him take full reign of it. So everything involved in this clinic was run by Justin. Absolutely crushes that. Also the internship. Justin handles the internship, so the curriculum, the hiring, the firing. We haven't had to fire anybody yet, luckily. And Katie Sells in the back. She runs the exercise science department, so we get a lot of interns from the exercise science department. But let's see, and so breakdown. Yeah, so that's the staff breakdown there. So
that's great. So shifting gears a little bit. So
talked about the staff, talked about your journey, our department, things like that. So going outside of work now, right? I think one of the biggest things coaches can struggle with at times is the balance, right? The work-life balance. And it's tough because, like I said before about Coach Ash, right? Coach Ash is a part of our work family, right? And so we see our work family a lot of times more than we see our actual family, and how important it is to have the right people around you at work, or else your day is going to be pretty darn miserable if you're around the wrong people. And so I think that we have a great work family. I think we have a great thing going here at Hofstra. But what's even more impressive to me is that the way Coach Jimmy leads our department at work, he leads his family incredibly well at home, and he does a great job with the work-life balance. Right, transitioning from an assistant or associate head to the head, there's more responsibility for you. You're speaking with, like I said, people you didn't usually speak with in your previous roles, and doing things you hadn't usually done, travel, and all these different things that you're doing. What do you think for you contributes to great work-life balance? And I'll flip the slide here quick if you want to tell that story.
I'll tell that before we get into it. So the big thing about the work-life balance is try to have your family as much a part of your work culture as possible, so they truly understand who you are. Because this is the blue and gold. I bleed blue and gold, and it's a huge part of who I am. And hopefully I can retire here one day, because I absolutely love the people I work with and love the university. So the story behind this photo, obviously this is me proposing. I actually proposed here at Hofstra, right on the turf outside. And I had the idea driving back and forth to my wife's parents' house at the time. And I was like, all right, how am I going to do it? Am I going to propose at dinner? Am I going to go to New York City and do it in front of the Rockefeller Center tree, things like that? I'm like, no, I got this. I'm going to do it my way, and this is how I'm going to do it. So I was lucky enough to have Steve Fallon, who was one of my first interns. He's the bearded gentleman in the back. He assisted me with this one. So I had Lee Bryce song. I had it on CD back in the day. This was, I guess, 5 years ago. I got the PA system in the stadium to play my wife and I's favorite song, and I brought her to Hofstra. We were on our way to go to Rockefeller Center, but the way I kind of duped her was, I have to pick up my computer, why don't you come inside with me? So I was not nervous until I walked up the stairs and I could see the turf, and if anybody is not engaged here, you'll find out, you'll understand what I'm talking about when that happens. Good luck. I had this whole thing planned. It was just, I didn't get much out besides I love you. But so anyway, make a long story short, I dropped to a knee and I had my interns spell "Marry Me" on the turf. I had the Lee Bryce song going. And again, it's who I am as part of Hofstra, and the best people I know are here. And yeah, so going into the work-life balance, by no means have I perfected this. Like, again, as you guys know, as strength coaches, we're very busy. We put in long hours. But I try. In 2009, I was single, 23 years old. I didn't really have much else except Hofstra. Like, I'm just going to put in as much time as possible. So I would work my regular day. I would go to every single practice I could just to get buy-in and things like that. Now, 10 years in, I don't have to be at every single practice. So if I don't have to be here, I'm going home. There's always things I can do. If I'm not training a team, I can program from home. I can be with my family, be with my kids. If I'm on the road, luckily there's a thing called FaceTime, so I use FaceTime a lot to bring the family on the road. But again, it's something you have to, just like communication, it's a relentless pursuit. You just always got to be conscious of it, especially as you get more responsibility and add family members to your family culture. And yeah, so that's something I do. I try to bring them to as many sporting events here at Hofstra that I can, and yeah, so that's the biggest thing on the work-life balance there. So,
and I would say another thing that you taught me as well is that, so Coach Jimmy does a phenomenal job of doing activities on the weekends with his family. So every time we come into work, I might say, oh, hey, how was your weekend? Coach Ash, and then we always say, hey, how was your weekend? We kind of go through it just to stay up to date. And I feel like every weekend you guys are going to a zoo or something like that, just doing something with the family.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things you're teaching me, right, is when you are present in body, right, are you present in mind? Are you actually there with your family, thinking about them, pouring into them, investing in them? So what are your thoughts on that? Like, did you ever struggle with that and then learn through that, or did you kind of always just have that approach to it?
Definitely having kids puts it in perspective. The last thing I want to do is get home and have to worry about something at work. Obviously, there's always some time that it's an emergency, you got to take care of something. But if I'm at home, get off social media, put your phone down, be present when you're actually at home, because you only get so many opportunities. Everybody says it, until you're a parent, you don't realize how fast time goes. And it seems like yesterday my daughter was not able to walk, not able to talk, and now she's running around the house going crazy and having her first Christmas concert and the whole bit. But that time is precious, so make sure you guys really just understand, if you have somebody at home, put your phone down, be present in the moment with your family, because it's easy to get caught up in cell phones nowadays, but when you're home, be present. So
awesome. So coming back around a little bit, so balancing the two is tough.
yeah.
Being successful in both places is really tough, right? Being successful at work and at home. You've been very successful here at Hofstra. What do you think has made you indispensable? I'll use that word because we've had multiple athletic directors, multiple head coaching changes, a lot of things going on in the department where you've not only survived all of them, but really thrived in the positions you've been in. So what do you think's made you indispensable to get you where you are right now?
Well, not indispensable. I mean, anybody here can take my job. I just enjoy people, and just as you just find yourself a role. Like, there's always more to do. So if you have an opportunity now in the head role, just because it's fresh in my mind, the fundraising piece, it's not like administration came to me and said, hey, you got to raise more money. It was just, I found an opportunity speaking with administration, and there's different roles, and now being here for 10 years, we have alumni and things that I can interact with, and just find new roles for yourself. And because again, you can blow through ceilings that you never thought. You could be in different roles that you never thought you'd be in. 10 years, like I said, 10 years ago, I never thought I'd be dealing with administration as much as I am. But just be open to new ideas, new roles, and yeah, that's the biggest thing. So
cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And because this is your 10-year anniversary, I do want to ask you, what is one of the biggest lessons you've learned throughout your time here at Hofstra?
Biggest lessons. It's really two. The coaching side of things, Coach Beach back in 2008, 2009 taught me, again, the piece of the athletes don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. It's absolutely, I live, breathe, and die by that statement, because again, I had two strength coaches. Everybody has this kind of identity crisis as a young strength coach, like who you're going to be as a coach. I had two football strength coach mentors. Well, they had just a completely different personality than me. So sitting back in 2009 when I got offered that strength and conditioning job, I'm like, well, I'm not going to try to duplicate what they're doing, or else these student athletes are going to see through that. So be true to who you are. And my thing was, I don't have to be this crazy screaming strength coach. I could just be who I am, just get buy-in from the student athletes, show the student athletes you actually care. And that's what I've lived my whole coaching career based on, is the ability to just show the people that I care. So, and then the other side of it is the Artinian effect. Like I keep mentioning Jay Artinian, he's a great man, and it just made me think that day sitting in the car after grabbing burgers, like, it's such a simple statement, but you guys can probably think yourselves, like, wow, most of the time I communicate with this one person only when I need something. So just sit back there and just, hopefully if you get one thing from today, is just think about that, is communicate with somebody this week that you normally don't communicate with unless you need something. Communicate with them just to ask them how they're truly doing, and have a meaningful conversation with them. So those are some of the biggest things there. So, cool. But now moving on to what keeps the fire burning in me. A couple different pictures here. So obviously I'll go through. So bottom left is just an example. It's me and a former men's lacrosse player. I was in his wedding party. It's not so much about that moment. That was an awesome moment to be in a former student athlete's wedding party and at their wedding. And actually, ironically enough, it was a men's lacrosse player married a women's lacrosse player. So I coached actually both of them and was in their wedding. So that was awesome. But it's more about what stokes the fire, keeps me going, is the relationships. The relationships, having former interns, former athletes that are here today, and just the relationships that you build through the years. That's what keeps me going, and that's what will hopefully keep me in this profession forever, is the relationships. Bottom right is our entire sports performance team. We are not labeled sports performance yet, but we're working on it. We have exercise science, Dr. Katie Sell in the back. She does an unbelievable job. She actually taught me, sorry Katie, I'm going to give you a little age there, but Katie taught me in undergrad as well. But she has been a huge asset to the department, and we're coming up with sports performance testing. Coach Ash mentioned it in the previous slide, like a injury analysis and and program there, and that's everybody that's part of it is in that picture. So being sports performance and being more holistic in the way we go about strength and conditioning is what continues to fire me up and gets me out of bed every day and motivates the hell out of me. Next one, I'll go to the barbell. Barbell with the American flag. So at the end of the day, I got into this profession because I absolutely love lifting weights. I love getting uncomfortable in the weight room, and I love just practicing what I preach and just trying to exude that to my student athletes. So I will train till I'm not here anymore, until I'm 6 feet in the dirt. I absolutely love training. Obviously the training may be a little different later in life, but that still is going to fuel me every single day, because the way practicing what I preach is part of the way I get buy-in as well. So the barbell continues to motivate me. And then the last one, most important, is my family. Unfortunately, they can't be here today. My daughter has the flu. She had a 104.6 fever. She's okay, but my family is another reason why I get up out of bed every day, to provide for them. And it definitely puts things in perspective, having children, and that motivates me to no end. So, yeah.
So we'll close on that. With all that being said, guys, I know it's a lot to take in, and I hope you guys took a bunch from it. Does anybody have any questions for Coach?
Yes, sir.
What was your biggest challenge on the Turnpike in your 10 years here?
Biggest challenge on the Turnpike?
Or one of the biggest challenges.
As a coach?
As a coach.
As a coach, I guess just really getting comfortable in that role. Again, 10 years ago, as a 23-year-old, you don't have a ton of confidence just because you don't have a ton of programming experience. You don't truly know how things really flow in a weight room until you actually have some teams going through it. So I think just building confidence and building who I am as a coach. I think I said it earlier, like I had that identity crisis, like who I'm going to be. I have these two mentors that just have a different personality than me. So who am I going to be? And just really finding that out and checking myself there. So, cool. Yes?
So just kind of piggybacking off of that, if you could go back in time and speak to a young Coach Prendergast who was a GA volunteer here at Hofstra, what 3 pieces of advice would you give that?
Great question. The number one would probably be, don't wait so long to get yourself involved with administration. Like early on, I tried to keep myself in a bubble, keep myself in the office upstairs and be like, all right, I got to do a really good job with my student athletes. But not that I didn't care about the department, but I just was really concerned about just my team. So when I first was hired, it was men's lacrosse, women's lacrosse, baseball and volleyball and wrestling. And those were my teams, that was it. And now I've waited a little bit longer to now start spreading my wings and trying to have more of an increased impact zone. A second piece of advice, get your master's degree earlier. I got it when I was full-time, I was employed full-time. And actually I was told, I didn't bring this up at the beginning, but one of the reasons, well, I was told one of the reasons why I didn't get head strength coach back in 2014 was because I didn't have my master's at the time. And the first thing I did, so I didn't get the job, I applied for my master's program, that next week, and then I ended up getting my master's. And then the third thing, I'm trying to think, let's see. Yeah, so education and really networking. I think doing a better job when I was younger. Get out there and network. Now with the power of social media, we didn't talk about it, but you can develop relationships with people just through social media. We do a thing where we try to bring other coaches in, Skype with them and things like that. And we brought Jim Wendler on. So if anybody's familiar with 531 program, I have never met the man in my life, but just through social media, I connected with him. He put me in contact with his wife, and then we brought him on for interaction there and a little Skype session. So those would be the biggest things there. All right, cool, good question. Yes.
How has the athlete, in your opinion, changed in the last 10 years, and how have you adapted to it?
How have they changed? They want to know more of the why they are doing certain things. And I'm sure Katie Sell in the back can relate to that as well, as being a professor here. They want to know why they're doing a certain exercise, why they're doing certain conditioning, whatever it is. And at first you get like annoyed by it, but then it's like, no, I want to know why I'm doing something as well. If I'm getting really uncomfortable and getting put through uncomfortable things, I want to know why this is going to help me out. So I feel like 10 years ago, people would just go and not really ask questions. Now, student athletes are asking more questions. And I think that's also like linear, like with the rise in social media. Now they have access to more information. So I think that's also why they're asking more questions. They see professional athletes, LeBron James, whoever it may be, going out and doing certain things. Well, why are we doing this and he or she is doing this? So I think that goes hand in hand a little bit as well. So good question. Anybody else? Yes.
So I know you mentioned before when you were trying to find your coaching identity that
Yep.
you had two different role models that
Yes.
you didn't want to necessarily replicate. You want to find yourself.
Yes.
How did you go about that, and what was the most important thing for you to realize, okay, this is who I am, this is how I'm going to coach now?
You just got to stick with your convictions, because I knew that I couldn't be them just because I didn't have their backgrounds, I didn't have their personality. So what is going to, at the end of the day, make your athletes buy into what you do is showing that you care about them. So that's what I was like, all right, I don't have to be this loud, screaming strength coach. I could be truly who I am and just, again, shoot them a text message, go to practice, go to games, do those little intangibles that would help pay off in the end. And luckily, hopefully it worked. So I'm still here, so we'll see. But good question.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
You talked a little bit about empowering your staff and finding ways that they could make your program more than what it was a day ago or a week ago. One of the things that we're charged with, well, we have to develop leadership, so we're going to do it in the weight room.
Yeah.
Right. Can you talk about maybe how you empower your athletes to become leaders? Because for me, one of the biggest issues I see is coaches are frustrated with lack of player leadership, but they don't ever have an opportunity to lead.
Yeah.
So can you actually talk about how you empower your student athletes to lead?
Great question. It's kind of, there's a bunch of different techniques we use. Sometimes it's as simple as having somebody run the warm-up. So pick out somebody new every day, run the warm-up. It's your warm-up, you got to run it, and just get some vocal leadership there. We also do team ab work, where we have each person on the team run a certain cadence of an exercise and let them take it. No command, I'm not even choosing the exercise, you choose the exercise, you explain to everybody how to run it, and I just sit back and just let them go through that and see how the team interacts with those student athletes as well. Do the upperclassmen try to step in and run it themselves, or do those people kind of figure it out as they go? Another thing we do is team competitions. So in the past, I used to, so if, say you have 2 or 3 or 4 teams, you would explain what you're doing to the entire team. Well, instead, now bring certain captains over, you explain it to those 4 captains, and now you, as those captains, have to explain the exercise or whatever you're doing as far as a competition with your teammates, so now it gets them in different roles like that. But those are some of the main ways we do it in the weight room and competitively. So if that answers your question. So cool. I saw another hand up.
So you have that great colorful lunchbox up there. Can you explain the story behind the lunchbox, please?
So yeah, lunchbox. So everybody's gonna be like, "Oh, awesome gift that you gave your assistants." So last year, I was thinking in my drive back to Suffolk County, I was like, "All right, what embodies our department?" Like as strength and conditioning coaches, we're blue collar. We're not working on machines or things like that or bridges. But when you're a blue collar person, you are building things. So we're building student athletes, we're building people, whether it's in the weight room, whether it's mentality wise. So I wanted to get Justin and Ashley something that embodied that. So the blue collar Stanley lunch pail, wherever it is, on the floor over there, is what I bought them last year. So Justin uses it for actual food, like it's supposed to be. Coach Ash, I think, uses it for just like thank you letters and impact material there. I use it for previous programs, but again, it's the mentality of we're blue collar and we love what we do. We get up early, we try to work harder, and that's the Stanley lunchbox. So progressing into this, I wanted to kind of get it almost like a symbolism for the weight room for our student athletes to kind of embody. So we do a lifter of the month where we take a picture in front of our American flag upstairs, and it has our 4 C's on it, 2 on the front, or 1 on the front and 3 on the back. And it's the same mentality. We try to just preach blue collar, just work ethic. Go up when it's your time to work, you got to work. So that's the lunch pail story. And Black Widow Training Gear is the company that I got it from. They're local on Long Island, and I told them the idea. They build strength equipment, but I told them the idea that I had, and he absolutely crushed it. So that's how we got the lunch bell. Great one, Ash. Thank you. What else we got, Coach Lindsay?
What's your proudest moment then as a strength coach?
Proudest moment as a strength coach. Great question. Wow,
There's a lot of them.
it's a tough one. Honestly, I have it's really just multiple moments. So I have a drawer upstairs that has all my thank you letters from student athletes, because like I said, my family is who I'm trying to impact at the end of the day, and I'm trying to just be the best role model as possible. So really, I'm saving all those thank you letters to hopefully pass down to my kids, so they have, hey, my dad was a decent guy. So that's basically those are all proud moments, just little moments like that. I love winning, I like championships. That's obviously a part of what we do as well. But those little moments, those add up big time, and that's what fuels me. So those moments. Just get to thank you real quick.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank Katie Sell. I've known her now probably 10 years, but she has impacted my career. I probably wouldn't be here to this day because of Katie. So as from a professor, from a mentor, from a colleague, and she's just an unbelievable woman and an unbelievable person. So I just want to thank her and thank her young son for being here, Cooper, in the back. So thank you very much. Bottom left, Justin and Ashley, this culture does not go on without you guys. I love you guys. I love showing up to work every day because of you guys, and hopefully no strength coaches in this room are going to try to take them from me. But but thank you for all that you guys do. I really, truly appreciate what you guys do. And my two mentors on the right. So we have Brandon Beach is upper right, the bald-headed man. He was getting his master's jacket in strength and conditioning, but he was a huge mentor to me. Again, was the first one to take me under his wing and just give me the extra minute in my career. So I just want to thank Brandon Beach. And then bottom right is Scott Wilkes, another former head strength coach at Hofstra. He was a huge role model to me and taught me a lot about discipline and holding student athletes accountable. And again, I wouldn't be here without them. So, and thank you for all you guys being here today, and all my former either interns, assistants, obviously colleagues. I truly appreciate everything you guys have done. Coach Mark, Steven, Coach Anthony, Coach Elena, Ian Leary, former student athlete, everybody. I truly appreciate you guys being here. Phil Giacchetti in the back, former student athlete at Hofstra. So thank you. I really truly appreciate it. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you for listening to the Built to Last podcast, where we encourage, equip, and empower coaches to live out their core values where they live, work, and wherever they build relationships. Have a blessed day, striving to build lasting impact.